Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Founders Club. Today I have Cormac Gray with me. Been really excited for this one. Cormac is the founder of Dunk Agency, also the founder of the Agency Mentor, and also awarded the BNT 30 Under 30. And I've been following him on socials for a long time. Finally got to meet him today.
I was like, oh, this is sick. And I was like, this is it. This is so easy. And they just pull the plug. I can't leave.
Yeah, because you look at things and you're like, this is...
We made a lot of mistakes. That brought us to the point where we got a full 100% acquisition.
Cormac, welcome.
Dude, thank you so much for having me. That's quite the intro, and wasn't expecting you to throw the 30 under 30 thing in there, but that was quite a time.
Tell us a bit about yourself.
Cormac Gray. I've been in the agency space for the last 7 years. I got into this world at just 20 years old, coming off the back of being a failed accountant. I had a Bachelor of Commerce degree, come out of Bond University here on the Gold Coast, and I think I lasted about 7 months in the accounting industry and very quickly learned that my personality didn't really match that of an accountant. And I kind of got into the space of digital marketing through my boss at the time, and kind of just almost fell into building up this agency. Definitely didn't have a plan to get into it.
That's cool. I'm actually a graduate at Bond too.
Oh, are you? Yeah, cool. What'd you study?
I studied business.
Did ya? Yeah, okay. Did you go to a lot of parties?
Nah, I didn't actually.
Me either.
Sure. Actually, while we're on Bond, what's your thoughts on the education system?
Yeah, I loved Bond. I thought that the culture and everything they had set up at that university was fantastic. I think in any environment that you walk into, it's what you make of it. So I was definitely getting involved in a lot of the activities, the fun social events, a lot of the sporting events too. I played a lot of basketball at the university as well, so that was probably the highlight of my time there. But it was fantastic, and it honestly gave me a really good starting point into getting into the career of accounting and later digital marketing.
Cool. Yeah, I agree with your personality. You're not made for an accounting business, because when you came in, just full of energy, ready to go, firing off all cylinders. So
yeah, definitely.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Tell us about how you started. It was first top tier marketing. Is that right?
Yeah. So I guess I'll give a bit of backstory to my agency journey and how it all kind of unfolded. So when I was an accountant, I was trying to start a bunch of businesses. I knew I didn't want to do that. I was 20, still living at home with mum, and I knew I didn't want to do that for much longer. So I tried to start 2 different e-commerce stores, pitched one of them to my boss, and it's never a good idea to pitch your boss an e-commerce store and then, to not show him that you don't want to be an accountant anymore. So he literally looks at me and goes, "This is the worst idea ever," because it was horrible. But
what was
it? We were trying to have anti-cellulite cupping.
Oh, yeah.
So I thought I found the next high smile, and I partially blame him for giving me the inspiration, because he showed me where you could find the teeth whitening kits on Alibaba. Yeah. I'm looking on the health and beauty sector. I'm like, I'm going to find the next thing. And we found these cupping systems that removed or reduced the effects of cellulite.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is going to break the internet. So I pitched it to him, and he goes, that's, doesn't look too good. Obviously you don't want to be an accountant, and I'm looking to get into this agency space. So he goes, we can start this marketing agency together. I've got a course. You can just start watching these lessons on how to run Facebook ads, and I'll give you 20% of the company. I'm like, done, 100%. I didn't want to do the accounting thing anyway.
Yeah.
Let me get into this agency thing. So off I go. I start working for free for honestly 4 or 5 months, up until we got a couple of clients. We started running ads, landed a couple clients, didn't really do that good of a job, wasn't really getting paid for anything. I got laughed at on the phone a few times. I tried to pitch somebody 4K because this course told me to pitch 4K.
Yeah.
The guy goes, "How long have you been in business for?" And I go, 6 months. He goes, "I know a bad deal when I hear one, and that's a horrible deal." I'm like, oh my goodness. So I'm like, not the best start. But then we had this e-commerce store, James Swimwear, Jamie Allen, who's a big influencer here on the Gold Coast. She gave me a shot, me and my business partner at the time, a shot. And she said, "Yeah, you can run my ads, but I don't know about paying you." We said we would do it for free, but would you give us a video testimonial at the end if we did a good job? And she goes, "Yeah, okay." So we did month 1, and we did okay. And then I was like, "Can I just keep doing it?" So then we go into month 2, and then we did a little bit better. And then she finally turned around and she's like, okay, cool. Well, here's your video testimonial for the work that you've done, and we would love for you to continue to run ads. And back then it was like, you could run those offers where it was 5% of the revenue that you would make through the advertising, because everything was tracked. This is before iOS 14. And when she gave us that video testimonial, I edited it that night, put it into my own ads, and I ran it. And we got brands like Buy D Australia, Frankly My Dear, Jericho, all from that one video testimonial. Wow. Because it was at the time the proof,
Yeah.
And it was just me, man. I was making, I don't know, I was probably making $1,500 a month. I remember me and my business partner even had a conversation, because he was still running the accounting practice. We were having a conversation around, is this even viable? Are we going to be able to do this? And then when we got the video testimonial, landed a couple of those clients, we're up at 5K, kept running the ads. Then we were up at 10K, then we got to 20, then we got to 30. And I was like, oh man, this is getting busy. This is going really well. So then I hired my first intern and an administration girl, Mark and Christy, and then they came into the office. And then by the time I hired my 4th person, Laura, me and my business partner split. We were like, we wanted different things. I wanted more from the business. He had a really successful accounting practice, so we decided to part ways. And then we moved into our own co-working space. So by that time, we were doing 30K months. I think I just turned 22 years old. And we were in this co-working space. So once we kind of got the business, and I had 100% of it at this point, in 4 months we went from 30K to 100K.
Wow.
And we were in this co-working space, and I remember I was just thinking, I'm the man. This is insane. I was just doing so well, and and I'm like the bad guy from Goldfinger. Anything I touch turns to gold. From James Bond.
Yeah.
And
I think you're valid in those feelings though, right? Going from 40 to 100K,
yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we tripled it in 4 months. It was pretty wild, but I think looking back on that time as well, it was a lot of just my eyes seeing green and just going, I can run. I've just learned how to run ads. I can sell anybody on anything, I felt like, and I would get them into the agency. But on the tail end, and that was from May to September, on the tail end, we went from 100K back down to 80. And then we went up to 84, and then we went back down to 81.
Yeah.
And the issue was that, that was my very first lesson in niching, working with the right types of people and not selling and saying yes to everybody. Because it was fine to make money, but it was more important to do, right by the client and then keep the client, because that's how you actually grow your agency. So then we kind of go into, I think, 2021. And by the end of 2020, we went from 3 to 7 staff. We also went through the whole, e-commerce boom, which also led to an agency boom. And you saw so many agencies just come out of the woodworks, you probably were there as well throughout that time period. And 2021, it just kept going. So then we went from 7 to 14 staff. And then the next year, we went from 14 to 20 staff.
Wow. And
then the year after that, we went from 20 to 14.
Cut back down.
We cut back down, but we had some hard lessons.
Yeah.
And, my agency specialized in working with e-commerce businesses and offering, mainly Meta and Google advertising for those brands to help them grow the revenue and profit.
Mm-hmm.
And then we kind of tried to expand into email, or we expanded into creative, we expanded into UGC, a whole bunch of different things. And it kind of just spread us too thin. And also as a business owner, I started looking at other things like consulting. I bought a photo studio at one stage. But yeah, that was kind of the start of the journey, and then it kind of led into all this other stuff that we might delve into a little bit more.
Back to niching, how do you know e-commerce was your niche? Because you're just accepting everyone at one point, right?
Yeah. So I think that we really liked e-commerce because you could attribute the success of what you were doing super easy on platforms like the Ads Manager. Especially back when I was, it was before iOS 14. I think that kind of came out in 2021 and really rocked the boat for a lot of marketing agencies, and also kind of called out some people that were just coasting off the back of really strong ROAS, but not really tying that marketing performance to business performance.
Yeah.
And we were in that boat as well. We had some hard lessons around that too. But niching and working with e-commerce, the thing that was so appealing to me was that when we spent money, we could really calculate the impact that we were making on clients' businesses. And the cool thing about working with e-commerce is they've got a Shopify account. You can literally see the data. You can see the increase. You can see the trends up. And then it was much easier to take screenshots of that or to take very clear, storylines of that, tell the client. They understand, then they can even do more case studies and video testimonials for you so you can show other people and then they can say, oh, I want those results too. So to me, that was a really cool, appealing thing. Plus e-commerce was like, I don't know, it was just cool to be a part of. Like it was all young founders, people were super creative, sick products. We were working with some really cool products like hammock companies, beard oil companies, beautiful jewelry stores, and all your friends knew them. So there was this kind of like liveliness around e-commerce that was super attractive for us. And I think that a lot of people, especially in 2021, 2022, got into that niche, and now you hear a lot of people saying it's very saturated, but it's still a fantastic market, and it's also had a lot of shifts as well. But I think that if you're not, as an agency owner, niching, you're not allowing yourself to become a specialist, an expert in one field. And what we do now with the consulting, where we have over 100 active agency owners that we're working with every single week, the guys that are really good at what they do, they get a lot of inquiries, they acquire clients more frequently, are the ones that are just working with construction, or they're just working with professional practices, or they're just working with e-commerce, because they're allowing themselves to just double down on the one area that has massive market size that they can definitely grow their business in.
Yeah.
But they're not letting themselves, they're like the horse with blinders. They're really focusing on just making sure they're nailing it for that niche and giving themselves the ability to get better at it. Because people think that they've been running, you're making 100 grand a month, you've been around for 4 years, you're still super young. And that revenue number isn't, a representation of your skill set. It's just that you could sell really well. But how good are you at the job? How much impact are you making on your clients?
Yeah.
And you only get good by just doubling down consistently in one market.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So you've gone through these ups and downs.
Yeah.
Through your business, and ultimately you end up on top, right?
Yeah.
How do you deal with the stress of all of that?
It was stressful, man. We had so I think we had any agency owner that's been around for long enough will tell you they had a really bad year. And we did. We had a really bad year where when we were kind of climbing, the peak that we got up to was like, we were up above $200,000 a month. We had, 17 staff locally. We had a couple contractors. So the team was roughly about 20. And then we just had this huge kind of pit. We came off a cliff almost, and we just lost so much work. Part of it was because, we were trying to onboard all these services and the services didn't work. Other parts was we were hiring staff and the quality wasn't really there. We had some bad eggs, and I was getting so far detached. And I remember we lost, I don't know, in a period of 6 months, man, we lost maybe like 50 to 60K worth of recurring work. And I remember I was sitting there, my wage bill was 120, 130. I'm thinking, I got some operating costs here as well. And, it was really good when we were making all that money. But then when we weren't, my margins were getting super tight and I was so stressed. There's nothing like financial stress, as any business knows. And I remember I was just like, I sat down with my accountant. I go, dude, I don't know like what I'm going to do. How do I get out of this thing? And it was at that point that I had initially had the thought of like, how do I get out? Let me sell this thing. This is surely worth something.
Yeah.
And I sat down with my accountant and she goes, dude, no one's going to buy this thing. This is a job, and your like run rate over the last 12 months is nothing like what it was in the last few years. And you have the opportunity to get it better. And if you do, you'll probably get a better exit if you did want to still do that later on. So I kind of had to tell myself, oh, man, I got to like lock in here. But when I lock in, I need to really alleviate some stress. So like any business owner would do, I kind of went in that next week with an axe and I had to start letting people go. We had to start removing services, which then made other roles redundant. I had to cull a leadership team that I thought was going to take me to $500,000 months. Just didn't work out that way. Lots of tears, lots of emotion, and it really rocked the boat with the agency. Everyone was like, where's this place going? And we also had this big office at the moment where I put 100 grand into it. It was 500 square meters. I was telling you about this before.
Yeah.
It was costing me 11 grand a month. Crazy. And I was like, at the time I thought it was the best decision. And then a year and a half in, I'm like, this was the worst decision. Why did I lock myself into this? And it took me 7 months to get out of that. I had to break lease. I was literally trying to sell people into this office. Like, look at how big the space is, what you could do over here. And people were like, and we finally got out of that. And we went into another spot. But dealing from that period, it was really, really difficult for me as a business owner. I actually got so nervous about money. I had, at the time we were still employing about 16 people. I took my wage completely out of the business and I moved back home. Like insane, like shifts, right? Like
That's crazy.
I had this big fancy apartment, huge realignment and ego adjustments as well. And I think like, you're a 24-year-old making 200K plus per month with 20 plus staff and this big office, and people are constantly telling you, oh, how successful you've been. And look at every time I see you, man, you got a new team member. And then you just have like a 3-month period where you almost like tank the business. And then you have to make these huge adjustments, cull the team, move back home. Like I was in quite almost like a, crisis.
Yeah.
Personality crisis as well. But it was the best thing for me. So we then brought the business back down to around 14 people. I put in a steady management team with 2 people. I had a acquisition person and then a retention person. So a head of growth and then a marketing director. And it was those 2 people, Mark and Ash, their names are. They're fantastic people. That really kind of helped me claw the business back, and we got it to really good, profitable 6-figure months. We were super happy as a business. We were doing all the right services, servicing all the right clients, having really positive impacts. And then it was at that point where I was like, man, I need to like do something else, because I was doing the consulting thing. The consulting thing got up to the size of the agency with 3 staff. I'm like, this is looking a little bit more appealing and I'm enjoying it a little bit more. So then I started exploring exit strategies, and I went headfirst into it. So what I basically did was, when it comes to selling a business, you essentially sell it like it's a house. Like you list it up on a couple of websites. I went through this one brokerage company, and that was probably the worst thing I ever did, because I ended up just speaking to my lawyers the whole time and didn't really talk to them.
Nothing to do with it.
But they were going to get a percentage of the deal.
Yeah.
So I ended up canning that. We talked to this one group who offered us crazy money up front, and I was like, oh, this is sick. They went straight into DD with us, and that lasted for about 5-6 months. And I was like, this is it. This is so easy. We're going to sell it, get all this money, and I'm going to wipe my hands clean with this business. And then when it gets to like the end of like the 6-month period, this guy calls me up. He goes, hey, yeah, we're not interested anymore. And I'm like, and I have a video recording. All this time. These guys are kicking around a can in my business, and I was telling my team members, we were introducing them to all these people. People were getting really excited about it, and they just pulled the plug.
And what was the reason?
Oh, the investors lost interest, and I had learned that we didn't even do like the basic things, like at the beginning of establishing commercial terms, like what's the deal structure? Is it a business asset sale? Is it a share sale? How much money up front? What are the tail end? What do I have to do as an agency owner? What are the duties that I have to lock myself into? So when we got to the end of that, I was like, man, I need a 2 months break. Had the break, listed it back up again. We had 3 people put forward letters of intent, which were legitimate offers. We had one group give us the most money up front with the best deal. We accepted the offer, went into an exclusivity period of DD for about 7 weeks. We had 2 weeks settlement. I got 50% of the money up front. This was May in 2024 last year. And it was fantastic, man. And it was a huge relief, because the year and a half leading up to it was probably the most grueling process ever, of just trying to clean the business up and get it ready for sale. And when we were in that settlement period, I'm like, there's no way this is going to happen. I'm not going to pull this off. And then I got the 50% upfront transfer, and I have like a voice note recording of me sending this voice note to Ash and Mark. I'm like, the money's come in. Cheering at this big party that weekend. It was
that's
the
so
best
cool.
feeling ever that we pulled it off. So
That's awesome. Was it an American company or?
They were Australian. Local? Yeah. They're just a group. They have about 8 companies that they've bought in. Half of them are in the marketing advertising space.
Yeah.
And we were like the 3rd that they acquired.
Cool. And are you still involved in that business?
Yeah. So my kind of deal, I'm only around for a year.
Yeah.
The deal was pretty phenomenal for myself. But up until May 2025 is when I will officially retire from Dunk. And not be as involved, but I'm sure I'll probably weasel my way into some of the parties and the office events that they do. But yeah, now what I'm doing is, and we started doing this about 2.5 years ago, which is consulting for agency owners. I saw a lot of the movements in community stuff, and I was doing a lot of just one-on-one calls with other agency owners. And then I said I want to do this in like a group setting. I want to have a cool community. I want to do meetups. I want to do events. So that's what we've kind of been doing for the last 2.5 years, which is educating people just on my journey, what we did, what worked, what were my focuses as a founder. And then really now what it's leading to for a lot of the brands that, we've got guys that are doing anywhere between 1 to 3 million a year that are in the program. And for them, I'll just talk about, usually it's acquisition strategies, team structures, acquisition in terms of leads and closing clients, and then exit strategies as well for them. And then we've also got guys that are doing anywhere between, just getting started to 30K to 80K. And they really want to ramp their business up into 7 figures. And we just basically give them a structure that I used, that our other coaches in the program used. And then what we're also learning from like over 300 plus now marketing agencies and what's working for them, and just kind of helping them and guiding them and giving them consulting each and every week.
That's cool. It's awesome hearing your journey. Gary Vee, I listen to a lot of Gary Vee. Yeah. And he says like, in business, there's no hiding it. Like, there's no excuses. You can say some stuff like, business is quiet because of one thing or another. But he's like, deep down inside, it's because of you as the founder, your decisions and so on. So
and I think a lot of people in the business world, man, they think they're gonna like make heaps of money.
Yeah.
Like I remember at the start I was making heaps of money, but then when I really started building a team, I stopped, and that was because I didn't really figure out how to manage costs. And then it was just like a whole rigmarole of just trying to build the business to the point where it is profitable, trying to take cash out where you can, but then wanting to put it back in because you still want to grow. So this whole idea of getting into business and making tons of cash and making tons of money, for the most part, especially if you're a business owner that's aggressively trying to grow, there's not that surplus of money that's readily available for you to go out and buy the nice car or buy the house, because oftentimes we're trying to put it back into the business to hire that staff member to help us get up to the next stage. And a lot of the stuff, like we made money throughout the agency journey, don't get me wrong, but a lot of the cash now and the freedoms that I've got is post-sale.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that I'm even learning when I talk to agency owners in our community, which is I'm asking them, hey man, you've been in this business for 5 years, like what's the goal? They go, I don't know. Like this is just my cash engine. And usually people haven't looked at exiting their agency or even a strategy, or they haven't even realized that there's no way that they can even leave their agency, because I was telling you before this, you've got leases, you've got wages, you might even have ATO installment payments that people stuffed up at the beginning of their journey, and they're paying off as they kind of go through. We hear a lot of that, and it's that thought that now, as we're talking to people in our community, we're trying to exercise in their minds. What are you looking at for the future?
That's cool. Because I remember, like you said, that when you first looked to sell your business, your accountant was like, look, you don't have a business to sell, you have a job.
Yeah.
And so what you're trying to do is elevate everyone to beyond that job level to, like boss and like CEO.
Yeah.
What was the best move you made to help you move yourself out of the day-to-day operations of the business?
Yeah, I think it's really hard for business owners in general, I can only speak in the marketing agency space, to let go of the reins in so many regards.
Yeah.
Because, in your mind, no one can do the job as good as you. But all agencies is just like leveraged labor. We have a marketing front with a cool brand and faces to the business. But at the end of the day, the business probably started with you and a certain skill set. Then you got too much work that you could handle, so you had to hire somebody else. Then you had to teach them that skill set. And then you had to leave them to do that job, and you kind of rinse and repeat that whole process in so many different areas of the business. And usually everybody at the beginning is doing hybrid roles, and as you start to get bigger, they're doing more siloed roles.
Yeah.
And I think that I wasn't really ever against the idea of getting somebody in to do the job better than me. Plus, I was pretty aggressive, I would say, if I think back to it, in terms of really just wanting to focus on leads and sales. So anything outside of that, I wanted to pass, like the operations, the managerial roles and things like that. I really wanted to get off of my plate. And I think that was one of the biggest attributing factors to why we grew so much, because I was very quick to get things off and pass it and then grow. But it was also one of the biggest attributing factors to why we had, for some periods, high churn months, because I was away from, the delivery of the work.
Yeah.
And I think at the beginning stages, it's really just about removing the big things that are taking up your time. So it's going out and doing shoots, it's optimizing ad accounts, it's editing creatives or branding projects, and it's getting somebody high valued in that is following your process to deliver that work. And then I think when you get up to a certain scaling point, the biggest thing that's going to pull you into the business is like team demands and client demands, even though you're not doing the work itself. So that's where management teams come in. And you can have a management team from a team of 4. When we first started, I had Laura, who was exceptional at the beginning. She, and all the way through, and she was a manager with Mark and Christy, and she oversaw a whole bunch of work that I used to do, and that allowed me, with a team of 4, to go into leads and sales and grow the business up to 7. So I think it's looking to replace yourself in so many different regards. Buy Back Your Time, even reading that book, Buy Back Your Time, from Dan Martell.
Yeah.
Fantastic read. I didn't even read that. I only read that like last year, and I was thinking, this is giving me language to some of the stuff that I was doing back in the day. But I think having that structure, looking to replace yourself, then bringing in management structures at any different level, wherever you feel like it's necessary, allows you to kind of step out of the business and up.
Yeah.
And every business owner should be looking to do that. You got to get yourself into the head of growth role, because if you have to be founder led in your business, and you have to keep, as the founder, your finger on the pulse, especially in terms of client acquisition. And if you're not pushing the tempo with that, then things get stagnant, and then it's really hard to either retain clients as well as staff, because people want to be a part of a growing business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now with the agency mentor, that's very much your face on the business, right?
Yeah.
So then how do you then apply those principles, or what's your strategy moving forward with that?
Yeah, so it was kind of funny because there was a period of 2.5 years, like 2.5 years ago within the agency, where I made a conscious decision to take my face off of all the socials in the agency, because I wanted to sell it, and I couldn't sell it if my face was everywhere, or the people that might be acquiring the business might look at that and be like, well, you are really pushing. You are the business, so you got to stay here. Exactly right. So I made a conscious decision to kind of take my face out, and then start to put more of the team's faces in. And that worked really well, and everything else eventuated to an exit. But now going into the agency mentor, which is quite the adjustment, like coming from a 7-year business into a 2-year business. This business is more mature with better systems and staff, and then coming back into this business, it's like it is really just me. We've got a team of 4, but it's very heavily founder led. It's very heavily led by Cormac.
Yeah.
I have to be the face. I have to be across all the content, and that's fine. It's a lot of fun, but getting back into that role is something that was an adjustment for me. However, we had a call 2 weeks ago with D Dang. He was the founder of Right Hook Digital.
Yeah.
And he kind of confirmed a lot of the beliefs that I was applying last year, which was business owners this year and last year have really gotten themselves into founder-led content. Because at the end of the day, with business, people sell people.
Yeah.
It's not branding. It's not your service. Everybody's pretty much selling the same thing.
Yeah.
But the thing that got us across the line a lot of the times in Dunk with e-commerce businesses was like my face. And there was also, with my face, a lot of people that didn't like us. Like people were like, I'm not going to trust that 24-year-old kid. But when they saw like Ash, or they saw, Mia or Jaden or Mark, they were like, oh, this is a cool young team. They look like trustworthy people. They're credible. They're legit. I want to work with those people. And I think that going into this year, a lot of the content and things that we're focusing on is founder-led content, my face, building trust with our future prospects and current audience in me, and then funneling that into the business. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. What are some of you're only 27.
27, just turned 27, yeah.
You still got a lot of life left.
Yeah.
What are some of your other goals you want to achieve?
I think when I was first starting in the agency space, I was very focused on money, and I wanted to make as much cash for myself as I possibly could. And I saw the benefits of that and the consequences of that as well, because people can feel how much you care about them and their business and their success.
Yeah.
And I think there was definitely points in the agency where I was way more concerned with myself and the money that I was making versus the money that they were making, and getting them the best ROI possible for the money that they were paying us. And like I said, we made money, but then we also lost business at the same time, because that feeling was there. After the exit and sitting on funds where it kind of makes you feel somewhat comfortable, the biggest thing that I think I'm focusing on this year is like impact over income. And I'm really trying to help, like we've got a goal this year of getting 25 agencies. Doesn't sound like a big number, but it would be amazing if we achieved it. Getting 25 agencies cross a 7-figure run rate. If we achieve that, like that would be amazing. And what I'm kind of doing is beyond the community and things that people are paying for, I'm really just trying to give and devote a little bit more than I think the standard. That old saying of, fix nervous with service. You're getting people to come into your business, your community, and they're like, oh, have I made the right decision? Is this going to really help me? And I think the biggest thing myself and the team are focusing on is over-delivering. Because if we can help hit that goal, have serious impact on people, then I think that everything else in terms of like our business growth goals will kind of come by proxy of us doing that initially. So I think really focusing on just delivering an amazing product, really focusing on just nailing it before we're scaling anything, is the focus. And I'm sure as we kind of do that, we've got a couple other things in play in terms of like, we're looking at some softwares, or we're looking at some larger events this year, which I think are going to be really fun. That'll all come into effect. Yeah.
Do you do much to work on your own mental and your own like mindset?
Yeah, definitely. I think the funny thing about the community that we run is we get guest speakers in every single month.
Yeah.
So we have, we had, like I said, last month we had D. This Friday we've got Tony Sambell, who has 30 plus staff. 2 weeks from now we've got Lucas Jensen, who scaled his business. He started doing 13K a month in the program. He's doing 350K a month now. Like, he's really grown. Wow. So we're getting him in. We've got Ralph Burns coming in from Tier 11 in America in March. We had a whole bunch of hot seats, special guest speakers last year. And the funny thing about the community is that I'm learning heaps as well. So it is the kind of like, we're helping people grow their agencies, but I'm also learning so much in the regards of the guest speakers that we're getting in. Yeah. Because these guys want to come in and talk to, 100 plus agencies and hear and speak about, their journeys. And for me, I'm kind of sitting on the sidelines hosting these calls with them, but I'm taking in all this information. So yeah, I think that that's a really good educational, channel for me. But then outside of that, I think self-development, I just try to keep healthy, exercise, touch base with, loved ones, all that kind of stuff, keep your feet on the ground. But as I think, the thing that I think back to with my agency, we haven't really done the big thing yet. I think all that stuff is coming, and I'm, well aware that at my age, I'm very young and there's a lot more to achieve. And we did a really good thing with the marketing agency. But I think there's so much more to learn. I'm aware that 7 years in the business is nothing compared to 20. And I think that you're going to learn far more in the industry over a couple of decades than I've already learned now. And, that's why I'm always trying to be as much of a student as I possibly can every single day. Yeah. So, yeah.
You said keep yourself grounded. Do you feel any effects of tall poppy syndrome?
Like for me to other people, or like from the people around me?
Yeah, people around you, and even just people online.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember when I first started my agency, I was trying to make all these videos, and they were like really bad. They're super cringe.
They always are. The first ones always are.
First ones are always atrocious. And I was sitting in front of the camera. I had this button-up shirt on. I was 20 years old, talking about these results that I was getting for these clients. And I remember there was kids in my high school, like I think the grade below, were sharing the videos into meme pages. And it really took the wind out of my sails. I was like, damn, man, like that hurts my feelings. But I had to ignore it. And I think that there was maybe an element of that when I was just getting started. And, it is kind of like lame. And, you are like people, especially in Australia, that tall poppy syndrome comes into effect where, yeah, people, think it's kind of like you're a loser if you're making content online or whatever. It doesn't, I don't think, go to the fullest extent of that, but I definitely felt it from time to time. And I just ignored it because, for me, the biggest thing that was indicating I was on the right track was making $5,000 a month. I was like, well, I'm self-sustaining, like I know my own lifestyle. And if I just did 2 times or 3 times the amount of work, then I'm going to be making $30,000 pretty soon. Yeah. So I was like, whatever, like who cares? And it happened, and we got bigger than that. And all that, I think, content and things that I was doing, and people that were kind of commenting on that or making me feel not as good about it, it was easily ignored because the reward was always kind of there or coming, and I could see that later on. But beyond that, I don't know, I hear a lot of podcasts as well where people go, I had to level up my friends and I had to just ignore people. I never had to do that. Like, I have mates that are tradies. My roommate's a tradie. I have all my like good friends are just like, you know, normal dudes just working 9 to 5 jobs, and I love them and I will hang out with them as much as I possibly can. Some weekends, you know, a lot of weekends you definitely just, you know, lock in and you don't go out drinking as much. But honestly, man, when I was 21, 22, 23, I was going out on the weekends. I was having fun, but I was definitely locked in as well on the business. So I didn't feel like I ever had to kind of cut people out because they weren't supporting me in different regards or they weren't achieving the same mission. Like I've never kind of done that. I always knew that, look, I'm on my own trajectory. I'm looking to build my business, but I've also got mates that I've known since I was 7, and they're going to stay in my life because they almost gave me a sense of normality compared to what I was doing. Plus, some of the guys in the industry as well, you know, you don't want to talk about business all the time when you're catching up with them on the weekends. So, yeah, that's my take on tall poppy syndrome. Yeah.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
A couple other short questions. Who's an entrepreneur that you look up to and why?
An entrepreneur that I look up to. Oh man, there's like honestly so many. I feel like there's guys that I listen to so often, and I'm gonna regret not saying their names. I think the obvious ones are like Hormozy or Gary V. I have a coach who really kind of helped me get started in the community space, Taki Moore, and he's phenomenal in the way that he helps people understand and digest learnings from a coach. But I think the Hormozy kind of lessons, he kind of breaks things down into the simplest form of what business is. And I think that that is something that I resonate with a lot, and I try to pass off to other agencies because business should be simple. It's hard, but it should be simple. Because complexity now is chaos later.
Yeah.
And if you can really just simplify what you do, and that's what Alex Hormozy talks about a lot, you know, one product, one market, one traffic source, one lead source, one way of closing those clients, and then just doing that for 1 year, the 5 ones. That's the fastest way to 7 figures a year. And if you're doing 3 to 5 different service offerings in 3 different markets, and you're working, you know, on 3 different ways to get leads in every single day, and you're converting people into the business 4 different ways, that's hard. You know, we were doing 6-figure months just offering one service, Facebook and Instagram ads. And the only way we got up to 6-figure months was just by running paid advertising to generate booked calls. We weren't doing anything else. So I think that's kind of simplicity is one of the best lessons I took from guys like Hormozy, and then it really helped me, you know, grow the business faster.
What are 3 traits of a successful entrepreneur?
I think superiority complex. No, I don't know. I think 3 traits of a successful entrepreneur. I think for one, you have to be aggressive. I think there's a lot of guys out there that are stuck below 20K a month in any kind of business because they're really, really focused on service delivery and nailing it for the client. But it kind of, it goes too far sometimes. The pendulum, I think that's what you call it, swings too far left. And it needs to kind of come back your way, pendulum.
Yeah.
And it needs to kind of come back your way where, you know, you need to, at a certain degree, you know, productize and package up what you're doing and then go out to the market and really start to, you know, sell more of it. Because there's guys that spend day in, day out, like 80% of their week, really focusing on servicing their clients. And that's fantastic, but input equals output. So if I'm putting 80% of my week toward clients, well, then they're going to get all the output. But if you switch that and you put 80% of your input towards yourself and your business, then you're going to get the output. You're going to get the growth. You're going to get the benefit. So I think one of the traits is aggression. I think that people skills is the most important thing. Dude, I got an OP15. Okay, I got really bad grades. C's get degrees. I lived by that. That was me. So I got really bad grades. Not bad grades. I just passed.
Yeah.
And for the whole time in schooling, I was like, oh my goodness, man, I feel like I'm literally getting shown statistically that I'm not that smart, you know, all the time.
Pretty sad.
Yeah, pretty sad. And but throughout my high school, I tried to get into other efforts. So I was house captain, I was MC at my high school. I was really good at speaking.
Yeah.
And I knew I had the gift of the gab, whether that's me being Irish or the character that I developed when I was growing up. I knew that I had people skills. And so I think another personality trait that helps marketing agencies, anybody really in the service-based business, because you have to deal with people internally with your team and your clients, is having really good people skills, being a clear communicator, being open and transparent, and being like welcoming in conversation, and people wanting to be around you, I think is a big thing. I really try to make an effort when I was 22, 23, and we had like that big team. Was taking everybody out for Friday lunches. I knew 20-year-old team members wanted to go out on Fridays. I knew that people wanted monthly events, quarterly events. So being a people person and really trying to, be there for your team, be there for your clients, and be fun to be around, I think is something that I really tried to focus on as well. Because at the end of the day, people make this world go around, and you want to make sure that people want to be around you.
Yeah.
So that was probably, I think, aggression, being a people person. And I think to a degree you have to maybe be slightly selfish and expect more of yourself. Like I definitely did. I think that when I was 20 coming out of the accounting job and going into this agency space, I had far greater expectations of myself and what I wanted to achieve in life. And I think that you'll probably find that trait in a lot of entrepreneurs where they're thinking like to themselves, this isn't it. Like I'm not going to just be doing this. I'm going to be doing something else.
Yeah, you can't settle.
Can't settle.
Yeah.
Exactly right. And I remember the thing that made it clear for me was that my dream car at the time was a Tesla Model X, and they were 120 grand. And then I looked up the average cost or the average wage of an accountant, it was 80. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to be able to get a Tesla. I got to switch. I got to pivot. I got to get into something else. And that's why I made that joke of like that superiority complex or that expectation of, wanting more and feeling like you should get more. Yeah. I think that's true to a degree. And then as you do get up to different ranks in business, you will get humbled along the way. And I think that, that complex now, I think you understand in the position that I'm in, at least, a little bit more of the fundamentals of the business. And I've had some serious ego checks along the way, and I think I'm going to continue to get them as well. Yeah.
Cool. Last question.
Yeah.
Is there a quote or a mantra that you live by?
Quote oh man, I get made fun of on our community calls because I say so many. Dude, let me think about this actually. What's one that I kind of say? What's the one that I have around simple? Okay, so this is my mantra that I keep ramming down everyone's throats when I get onto calls, which is KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. Learned it from my grade 3 teacher, applied it to everything in business that I've done so far. Like I said before, complexity now is chaos later. Yeah. Simplicity scales. So KISS, keep it simple, stupid. Every time you feel like my packages aren't aligning with this, and if they wanted to get this, they'd also have to add that. My funnel structure, if they click this and they go to this section, or if they don't, then they go here, and it's a 3-step or it's a 4-step, depending on what they choose. If it's complex, streamline it. Like, take things out to make the car go faster. So I think that keeping everything simple is probably the fastest way that you'll experience growth. And it doesn't feel right because it feels like it shouldn't be that simple.
Yeah.
But it is. Just because it's simple doesn't mean it's easy.
Yeah.
And scaling any kind of business, have the simplest format of that business, it's going to be really hard to do it. Yeah. That's my mantra. KISS.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for your time today.
You got it.
I learned lots. I'm going to continue following your journey.
Thank you so much for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Cormac.
Sweet.